Is Portland going down in 2024 or is it going up? Stay tuned for all of our predictions.
We're using this opportunity to bring you down to the waterfront. The cherry blossoms are in bloom. They heard the call of spring this week. And this area is actually one of the hardest hit parts of Portland over the last few years. So it's very fitting to have this conversation downtown along the waterfront and talk about where Portland's going.
Let's go. Hey everybody, my name's Aaron Cullen and this is Brandon Cullen, and we have a local real estate company right here in Portland, Oregon. And today we wanted to do just an honest, straight shoot video of what is the state of Portland, what is it like right now in 2024, and what to expect if you're thinking about moving here.
Watch your step, there's a little mud. I'm wearing my raincoat, so it still is March in Portland and we might get rained on out here.
Okay, so we're in peak bloom right now, and it's how beautiful it is. You can, with the winds kind of kicking up, you can see the little petals flying off, and you probably only have a few weeks a year to really check this out. And we are peak bloom right now. We're only about like a week into it, maybe not even a week. So there's a lot of people out and about, but we thought it'd be a great place to come down, let you see the beauty that's here in the city and what we see in it, and a lot of other people too, even though there are a lot of not so great things that are going on in the city and have been, really since COVID and the spur of that.
I think the thing about Portland is that it's true, it did get hit really hard in the pandemic, and particularly this part of downtown, which we're right outside of Old Town and borders the waterfront. And it's it's sad and unfortunate for a lot of reasons, but I think a city's waterfront had such an opportunity to be like a gathering place and the pride of the city. And Portland just hasn't really had that here along the river, especially over the last few years. The hope is that all of that is changing with some big redevelopment programs and investments that the city is making both on this side and on the other side of the river right along this area.
So let's talk about a couple of the really cool developments that the city has going on, where the city's raising a lot of money to reinvest back in the city. Now, that is a great sign. Everybody knows, and if you don't, I'm a local real estate agent, and so I always like to keep in the know on what kind of projects the city is doing to redevelop and help the city grow, put the tax dollars back into the city in a positive way.
Quality of life for the people who live here.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that Portland really was known for before it kind of got branded with COVID and everything that happened with the riots and the focus that was put on Portland and the homelessness and really the tents that were allowed. People were allowed to tent and camp rampantly, but I'm not going to go deep into that. You're probably already aware of a lot of that. So I wanted to talk about, on this section, some of the positive redevelopment projects that they have. And there are several. One of them that I want to mention is called the Broadway Corridor project, and that is taking place, if I spin the camera around, right over that way, across the bridge right there, the steel bridge, and over there to the west of that. So just right over here, and that's part of Old Town, which is the statistically speaking, if you look at the crime stats, it's that has the most crime and kind of like the roughest area of like the downtown area of Portland.
And it's such a shame. A lot of people, this is one of their favorite parts of Portland because it just has a lot of history, a lot of pride. I see there's so many people down here taking photos and gathering, and there's some guys over here with pink bags from Voodoo Donuts, which is like a iconic Portland location because Portland's known for such great food and specialty items. Voodoo Donuts right over here in Old Town. And so this could be like a pride of the city, and I think that's what they want to work back towards.
That's right. I see on the threads a lot online where people are like, oh, hey, I came into town and went to Voodoo Donuts. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe how much vagrancy there was, and it just seemed kind of dangerous and dirty. And all those things are true. So I think doing this, this major redevelopment project, they're taking 36 acres where the old downtown U.S. Post Office site was. That area alone is like 16 acres, and then plus a bunch all surrounding it. And they're turning it into this massive redevelopment project where they're going to have, it's going to be mixed use, commercial spaces, on the bottom level, condos and apartments. Part of it's going to be affordable housing. They're also going to put new parks in there and this really cool trail that'll connect the Riverfront Trail through that corridor and connect that into the Pearl District and connecting the parks.
And if you're not familiar with downtown Portland, the Pearl District is really like the Pearl. It's like the gem of downtown. It's a very just hip, popular place for eating and meeting up and going out. And so to connect the two feels like, of course, they should be connected.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you connect them? Yeah, it makes total sense. And, to spin the camera around, we're right along the Willamette River right here. And one of the cool things I love about Portland is, and moving here from LA, it still has a lot of that grittiness to it, that realness to it, but then also a lot of beauty to it. And, Portland was known to be a safe city and lots of people, downtown, around, walking around. And, now that image has gotten destroyed. Part of it is the media overhype, and part of it is because the crime, did double in a lot of neighborhoods, in and around Portland. So it's not as safe. And then people, went more to the suburbs and kind of moved out of the city centers and they canceled a lot of those events. Well, I'm happy to report that those are making a comeback. Crime is on the downtrend in most of the areas in and around Portland. So that's amazing. They've made a point to hire more police now, which is great.
You just mentioned this morning that there's a bill before the governor to reverse the law around public drug use.
That's right. Yep. The local legislature put a bill in front of the governor to sign. The governor indicated she is going to sign it to not, decriminalize drug use, like low-end kind of consumer drug use. And a lot of the homeless population, was really abusing that, in public. And I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, but it just makes sense. I think it was kind of exacerbating, the issue of, people having public safety, people, that are already down on their luck. And then if they can just have easy access to drugs with no consequences, it was hard for them to get help. Hopefully this will help that solution.
I mean, there's so many things that need to come together to solve that bigger problem, but the fact that the city is making efforts and the residents are engaged and really want this to go forward, I think is really, a very welcome development.
Yeah. And I mentioned in one of my other videos that there's also kind of grassroots organizations that in and around different pockets of downtown are trying to find housing for the homeless and people that they find that have tents or look like they're sleeping on the street. They'll go and they're raising private money to try to place them in housing that the city has available, and the city also has in the works on several new facilities to open up several hundred new beds. It's not enough, but it is starting to combat, just in the Pearl District, they were able to cut in half this fall the amount of homelessness that was sleeping out the streets just in that little area, which is great.
So that's over here on the west side of the river. And then just to talk briefly about another development that is in the works on the east side of the river, which is the OMSI district. And OMSI is a museum of science and industry, children's museum on the east side of the river that's in a cool part of town, but a lot of warehouse industrial space over there.
Yeah.
And this development is going to bring in mixed use space. It's also going to create space for a tribal community center and really, elevate and bring back that presence in the city, which is a wonderful thing. But there's going to be a tribal community center, a center for makers and mixed use, residential, commercial, and then waterfront amenities. So a park and, restaurants and stuff along the water, which again, seems so obvious that we should have that, especially, in Portland in the summer months. There's just nowhere more beautiful than the Pacific Northwest when the weather's nice and people want to be outside and gathering together. So, on both sides of the river, this investment is happening and it'll take years. I think the OMSI project is, or maybe it's this project is aimed for a 2035 completion. So these are long-term investments in projects, but it's important to start somewhere.
That's right.
And then I think just to pull back and give a little bit of, anecdotal food for thought for those of you who are thinking of moving to Portland and aren't sure what's the right area for you. We have a lot of clients who reach out and they think they want like an urban lifestyle. They want a walkable neighborhood. People are drawn for good reason to the character of Portland, the older craftsman homes, some of the older neighborhoods in the Northeast and the Southeast. And there are such cool areas. But today, Portland is very pocket by pocket in terms of what it feels like with safety and aesthetics and gentrification. And so you really do have to do your research. Reach out to us. We'd love to, give you our thoughts on neighborhoods and plan a trip to come out and visit. You had some clients recently, Hetty, who really thought they wanted that urban lifestyle. And then when they got here, it didn't really pan out that way. Tell a little bit about their story.
Yeah, so I worked with them. They contacted me through seeing my YouTube videos, and they wanted that more urban, 100% walkability lifestyle. So they were thinking Southeast, Northeast Portland. We kind of worked together, and they were looking online at several homes, but they had never really been to Portland yet to explore. But their work was taking them to Portland for a job opportunity. So once they actually got here, and it took them literally like one day of driving around on their own, exploring a couple different neighborhoods and just viewing some of the homes from the outside. And they called me up and they said, you know what, Aaron, we don't like any of this area. It's a lot kind of dirtier and grittier. And we're realizing, the neighborhoods are fine and they're great in the neighborhood, but as soon as you walk a block to the main city streets, it's just a lot grittier than we were expecting. And, I don't feel safe, walking around in some of those areas, especially at night. And so they wanted to recalibrate and look at the suburbs. So they ended up finding a place in Westland that kind of checked a lot of their marks. They were wanting that Northwest experience where there's huge, tall fir trees, in their backyard, all around the neighborhood. There's views, trails, walking distance from their house. But there's the Willamette Historic District, which is great for having those local shops and connection with community and festivals and all those kinds of things that they were looking for. And it was literally like, a 3-4 minute drive down the hill from there. And it was close to the highway to be able to get to their work. So that ended up working great. They're already in contract on the home. And that's just an example of how there's so many different pockets in Portland that kind of make up the city. So,
and sometimes you've had clients go the other direction. I think you had some clients recently who thought they wanted to be in the Northwest, out near the woods, and then they ended up in Mount Tabor, which is more of a city neighborhood. And so it's really important just to explore, and we can help you feel through what your priorities are and what you really like, what you're looking for in your lifestyle, and match that up to a home in a neighborhood.
So I don't know if you can tell from this video, but we're bullish on Portland. We think it has a lot of great things going for it, and even greater things in the future. I mean, this is just a really cool city, but again, I think you got to want to live here. And just being in the Pacific Northwest, and you're central to so many nature opportunities, let alone having these cool, grittier city experiences. So I love being able to have the balance of all those things.
Not to be super cheesy, but we were at Disneyland a few weeks ago with our kids, and as you leave, it's a small world. There's this sign that says, having fun today, looking forward to tomorrow. And I feel like that about Portland.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm a local real estate agent. If you're thinking about moving here, or if you have questions about, hey, what's going on in Portland, what neighborhood would be a good fit for me, go ahead and reach out. My information's right down there in the description area. Shoot me an email, send me a text. I'd love to talk to you. And if you enjoyed this video, stay tuned for the next video coming up right now.